Before sharing my story, I have a little confession to make. I'm a bit of a ladies' man, if you know what I mean. That's why my girlfriend left me. She caught me cheating. We had a fight, but we broke up pretty okay, I think. I mean, we still talk, we're still buddies, we're just not a couple anymore. So I had no idea how I got to be alone 3 days before Valentine's. This made me a little sad, as all my friends were already hooked up and had plans for that night. I was alone, but not desperate. I took it as an opportunity. I got my best clothes, I made sure I looked the best I could, and went to a famous restaurant downtown. I was a predator and was looking for someone to spend this holiday with. I was cool. I arrived at the scene. There were both men and women, all single, all good-looking. But I have standards. 2 women tried to make a move on me, but I rejected them. And then I saw her. She was beautiful beyond words. She was sitting alone at a table. Nobody even came close to her. I thought everyone was intimidated by her looks. I sat next to her and introduced myself. We talked, we had a drink. I asked her to come to my place. She agreed. We left, holding our hands. She was sweet, she said the right words. People looked a bit strange at me, but I brushed it off. I drove home. We talked some more. And I must end the story here, for although a womanizer, a bastard am not. You understand what happened. I felt amazing. The next night I had a nightmare. I ignored it. The woman said her name is Sarah. We decided to begin a relationship. Things started to go missing, started to get misplaced. Was Sarah a thief? Nah, I don't think so. I became increasingly fascinated with her. But strange things started to happen. The TV would turn on and off. I spent another night with Sarah. I had nightmares. But the next morning she was gone. I asked the concierge, yeah, I'm a wealthy guy, what can I say, if she saw her, but he denied. Nobody came or left my building. Maybe she left early before the concierge could arrive. I brushed it off. What really set some alarm bells was the housekeeper's question. Are you seeing someone? She was a nice old lady who really cared for me. What do you mean? I have a girlfriend. Her name is Sarah. The lady replied she didn't see her. Where was her? This gave me the chills. I went at the restaurant. I had a friend who worked there as a waiter. I asked him about the night I went there. He said it was a little weird the way I left. Like I was leaving all alone and stuff. Alone? What the hell do you mean I left alone? I got to my apartment complex. I saw the cops and the ambulance. The concierge died of a heart attack. Something frightened him to death. Sarah paid me a visit that night. When she heard about the concierge, she laughed. I was horrified. My heart was pumping like crazy. Who was Sarah? What was Sarah? I found a small pocket Bible book, and I prayed. I prayed like hell in that huge bathroom. I said, Lord, show me the truth about this Sarah. And that night, we kissed. But I also had a vision. Sarah turned into a monster or a ghost, or I was scared as hell. I tried to run, but something slammed the door in my face. Sarah made a knife float into her hands. She slashed at me. I dodged. I tried hitting her, but my fists went like through thin air. Then Sarah pushed me down the stairs. I can't remember what happened next. When I woke up, I was sitting with the knife in my hands and a few cops were pointing their guns at me. I was told at the precinct that I tried to kill the housekeeper. I was thrown in jail. Sarah came into my cell and told me she can set me free. She said I owe her. I called the guard and I said all the right things, like I wasn't even speaking. Sarah was speaking through me. The guardian let me go. I convinced me I would pay for my release at a later date. At home, Sarah told me I have to drive to the restaurant I met her and just kill everyone there. A revenge for her murder some 50 years ago. A slaughter that would ensure enough negative energy for a dark portal. She was just planting thoughts inside my head. Despite not knowing what Sarah was, I felt strangely in love with her. Sarah had a way with words. I called my ex-girlfriend. She laughed at me, asked me how I get along with Sarah. This was all her revenge. She wished me a happy Valentine. Sarah wanted me to turn it into a Valentine slaughter. The restaurant would be full of people, full of lovers. Sarah and I both knew that. Sarah made me sleep, and when I woke up, it was midday. I was in a scrapyard. I was drawn to a certain car. It was old, like Prohibition-era old. I found in its truck a Tommy gun and a few boxes of ammo. I saw a ghost, a mobster, but he soon faded. Sarah told me she chased him off. The mobster tried to warn me it was time. Sarah told me to drive. We were to reach the target area soon. But no, I won't do that. I drove like crazy. Sarah kissed me and told me we'd be together forever. Admittedly, I was seduced. For a few moments, the thought of my deeds weren't so bad. After all, did I know those people? But I fought these feelings with all my might. No, I won't kill for love. I will find a real woman, not that creature or ghost or whatever that Sarah really was. Sarah tried to possess me again. We fought over the steering wheel. We were getting close to the restaurant. Sarah planted more thoughts inside of me. I looked at her and was fascinated again by her. If I kill them all, I could be happy with her forever. She will make me happy. She is not like the other women. I walked as hypnotized. I took the Tommy gun. The restaurant was full, couples of all ages. I took the vantage point and loaded my weapon. But no, I prayed and turned right back and walked to my car. Sarah made me stumble upon a rock. The weapon just glided on the ground and next to my hands. I got on my feet. Sarah kissed me. I took the weapon and approached the restaurant. I was never so in love, and nobody loved me so much as Sarah. I struggled to throw away the Tommy gun. I fled to the car. I entered it. So did Sarah. I saw her on the back seat. She looked scary as hell, like wounded or twisted. "Avenge my death or you will never know peace. I will destroy you," she said. I drove full speed to an approaching car. She made me turn the vehicle around. I chose to accelerate. I slammed into the restaurant's wooden fence. I was hurt. I lost consciousness. I woke up in a hospital. Next to me, I saw a priest. He also had some health problems. I told him about what happened. He agreed to help. The next day, we went to my house. Sarah put up a ferocious fight by making the furniture move, or all books just sit upside down in that library. She appeared to me and we kissed again. She made me try to get the priest to leave. I had a choice. I fought my feelings. These feelings were not real. She manipulated me. I continued the ceremony, and in the end, we banished Sarah forever. This whole experience changed me. I got my stuff together and became more serious. I found myself a nice woman shortly, and I settled down. We got married. We spent wonderful moments together and are really in love with each other. I'm happy with my wife and will never ever cheat on her. Other women no longer interest me. It's a fine and good life. Only that sometimes, at night. Sarah visits me in my dreams. She tells me we can still be together, and if I want that too, I have to carry on her Valentine's Day murderous plot. She's beautiful beyond words. She told me she loves me. Will I ever truly escape her poisonous charms, or will she one day manage to break my will? The kids were convinced that Miss K was benevolently haunting the place. They'd invented all kinds of typical kid mythology about her ghost, crediting her when they got lucky, requesting her assistance when they had trouble, leaving notes for her on the board in her old classroom. Just before Valentine's Day, all the kids at Ben's school decorated mailboxes in art class. Just shoeboxes, really, with a slot cut out to shove valentines and candy through. These were opened at the yearly party in the cafeteria, and the kids took them home with them afterwards. Pretty cute. Until the first year after Miss K died, when the faculty doing post-party cleanup found an extra, unopened mailbox. Its only decoration was the word Jack written across the front. And after figuring out that it didn't belong to any of the students, the teachers opened it themselves. It was stuffed to the brim. No candy, but way more valentines than usual. Normally, kids only gave valentines to others in their grade, but this box had over 100 in it. They were the same little kid valentines as the regular boxes, movie characters, Disney princesses, etc. The youngest children had simply filled in Jack on the recipient line and put Miss K as the sender, which was enough to creep the staff right the fuck out. But several of the older children had also included some brief message. "Miss K loves you forever," was far and away the most common. The faculty tried to reassure each other that the children had just added a little soap opera drama to their developing legend. A second round of grief counseling was ordered, along with mandatory class discussions about how ghosts weren't real. But the next year, there was another box. And there'd been one every year since. My name's Jack. So of course my family teased me during Ben's story. My little sister didn't, though. She chewed her lip, looking thoughtful, and when Ben finished, she asked what the teacher's real name had been. Ben's answer froze my blood. You can tell where this is going, right? In life, Miss K had been Mia Karasievich, a former friend of mine from years ago. We'd been practically inseparable, that is, until she'd revealed herself to be a manipulative psycho bitch with all the tenderness of a rabid honey badger. She'd left my heart in shreds, and I hadn't spoken to or seen her since. I'd moved away shortly after the bullshit with Mia, only coming back for Christmas and the occasional Thanksgiving. And somehow, I'd managed to completely miss the news that she'd died. Died, and became the patron saint of first graders, apparently. What the actual fuck? I hadn't said a word since Ben started his story, but my siblings and parents remembered Mia well, and the fire pit buzzed with their hushed speculation and excited theories. Forget salt in an old wound. This was salt with a lemon garnish and piranha chaser. I knew better than to try and drag my family off a subject they had their teeth sunk into. I muttered excuses and headed inside, grabbing my iPad and heading to the front porch for some quiet, a smoke, and a consultation with Dr. Google. Mia's obituary came up right away, and the photograph made my heart lurch. In her prim and proper teaching outfit, Mia looked more like Snow White than ever, all dew eyes and deceptively sweet smile. She'd looked at me like that the day she'd told me about that guy, too. Wide-eyed as a toddler with its hand in the cookie jar, like she had no idea what I was pissed off about. Those were the kind of misty, watercolored memories I was chewing on when Ben found me. All those Valentines are in a box in the teacher's lounge, he said, helping himself to a cigarette out of my pack. All of them, from every year. I could get you the box if you wanted to see them. Aren't you a science teacher? Why are you on board with this ghost crap? I yanked the pack back towards me with a little too much force. It's not me, dude. For one thing, that lady was a tramp. There could be a dozen Jacks. Ben recoiled from the venom in my tone, but I continued, bitterness rising. I knew it wasn't fair to take it out on Ben, but I couldn't seem to stop myself. Not to mention that Jack is the most fake, least imaginative name those kids could have possibly picked. It's the ultimate kid's story name, isn't it? Jack Frost, Jack Horner, Jack and Jill, Jack Be Nimble, Jack and the Beanstalk. Ben sat quietly as I ranted on, his face blinking red and green from the garish display across the street. I finally paused long enough for him to get a word in edgewise, and he asked how much longer I'd be in town. When I told him my flight left the day after Christmas, he suggested that we stop by the school on Christmas evening. He had a key, and I could look through the box of Valentines. I started in on a list of things I'd rather do that included root canals and colonoscopies. And that time, he did cut me off. Look, I know you think it's bullshit, and if you're sure it isn't you, I believe you. Ben said, but would you do it as a personal favor to me? I already sent out a mass text to the staff and they're really excited about this. I'll be a hero next semester, and there's this insanely hot secretary in the office. That's how Christmas evening, when I should have been lounging in my sweatpants watching my nephews bicker over Legos, I found myself dashing through the snow in Ben's junker old Corolla. Empty schools are creepy as hell. Without the crowd of bodies and backpacks, the metal lockers and tile amplify every footstep into a resounding echo. And in the half-lit shadows, even the holiday decorations seemed sinister. I screamed like a girl when we rounded a corner and I collided with a papier-mâché Santa Claus. I'm sure somewhere, some third graders were proud as hell of their creation, but damn, the uncanny valley didn't even cut it. His bulging eyes bore tiny, furious pupils, and his mouth stretched in a grin of pure insanity. The horrible thing was made even worse by blood-red strobing lights, which I quickly realized were the fake flickering bulbs of an equally mutated menorah. Sorry, should have warned you, Ben chuckled. I guess it's too late to ask Santa for new pants, huh? Let's just fucking get this over with, I growled. Like I said, the acoustics of the place were all distorted, and I whirled at the auditory illusion of small footsteps streaking past us. Probably a bird at a window or something, but I was counting the seconds until we got out of there. Ben ducked into the teacher's lounge, returning a few moments later with a large cardboard box and leading me down the hallway. He pushed open a classroom door and hit the switch. I'd thought having proper lights on would help, But somehow, the harsh fluorescence just made everything seem more sinister. There were posters about fractions, a banner reading, "Math is functional," desks clustered in a circle. A whiteboard listed the homework as, "Have a 100% wonderful holiday. See you next year." Ah, math teacher humor. Beneath the assignment, way down at the bottom of the board, someone had scrawled, "Merry Christmas, Miss K," in small childish letters. "This used to be her classroom?" I asked. But I was pretty sure I knew the answer even before Ben nodded. He handed me the box of Valentines, then said he'd be down the hall getting some grading done. I nearly asked him not to leave me. But after his crack about pants from Santa, there was no way I was giving him more ammunition. Instead, I headed for the teacher's desk, setting the box down and taking a deep breath. The first Valentine I pulled from the box was a character from one of those freaky kids shows. Fuzzy and striped in shades of green with impossibly long arms. Even though I'd been told exactly what to expect, it still sent a chill down my spine to see my name scrawled next to that thing. After a few minutes, I got more efficient, learning which cartoon characters went with each age group. The ones with Elmo, Dora, that green thing and his freaky friends went in the not bothering to read these pile. I picked up the stack of older kid Valentines that were left, flipping through them like playing cards, scanning the brief messages. My eyes narrowed as I read, leaning closer and closer, and I got that feeling. You know, the being watched feeling? I looked up and called Ben's name, but he wasn't there. I heard a mouse-like squeak. But when I looked over, all I saw was the same old whiteboard, with its math pun holiday homework and the small "Merry Christmas Jack" beneath. I returned my attention to the Valentine in my hand. Kermit the Frog this time, nice to see some appreciation for the classics, then froze. Hadn't that board said "Merry Christmas, Miss K" before? I set Kermit aside, moving towards the whiteboard, trying my best to explain away the alarm spreading up my spine. My eyes had still been adjusting to the harsh, bright light when I'd looked the first time. Both things ended with a K, and the kids did usually leave messages for me. No, damn it, not me. Their made-up, fairy tale, fictional Jack. I bent without thinking, picking up the red Expo marker that had fallen on the floor. The word Jack had been written in red, and there were those dirty smudges all around it, the kind you get when you erase something on a whiteboard with your finger. My heart sped up. I was probably just spooked, but it really looked like Jack had been written in smoother, more adult handwriting. As I reached out to touch it, the overhead lights flickered and died. It's embarrassing to remember, but I freaked the fuck out, stumbling backwards until I hit one of the desks and sat down hard on top of it. I was so panicked, I imagined all kinds of stupid things. I struggled to adjust to an inverted world. The room had been hideously bright before, the windows dark. But now, the snow-filtered moonlight provided the only illumination in a room consumed by deep shadows. My eyes played tricks on me, producing an after-image of a darkened, moving feminine silhouette. My other senses heightened and distorted, picking up the faint scent of a live tree somewhere in the building and trying to convince me it was Mia's old clover perfume. I shivered against an imaginary chill, the hairs on the back of my neck prickling as they lied about a presence behind me. And then, the point at which I knew I'd managed to totally spook myself out. I heard a soft voice whisper my name. This is the really fucked up part. I mean, it's so fucked up that I almost didn't include it. It instantly turned me on. I never actually hooked up with Mia, never even kissed her. I'd come damn close once, though. She'd sounded just like that when she'd whispered my name that night, full of longing, and almost like she was saying something holy. Almost like Jack was another word for amen. I'd never forgotten it. Believe me, I'd tried to forget, but I'd heard that soft whisper against my neck in 1,000 dreams. All those details came crashing back, sending a heated shudder through me that had nothing to do with the temperature in the room. I could feel her, beside me, touching me, and although I knew it was merely the onslaught of memory, I could have sworn I felt fingers softly stroking my cheek. Despite the dark, I closed my eyes and tears welled beneath my eyelids. I hated her. I hated her so fucking much. And yet, part of me had always missed her. Missed her deep down in my bones. Missed her like a part of me that'd been ripped away and never replaced. Against my will, against every sane part of my brain, I found myself leaning into that phantom caress. "Hey, Jack. You okay in there?" I blinked at the break in my reverie. Ben stood in the doorway, using the screen of his phone as a flashlight. The light hit me in the face, and I winced away. "A breaker must have tripped or something," he said. "I didn't even realize this section had gone dark until I came to check on you." At that moment, half-hard and tear-stained, I was damned grateful for the darkness. Ben said he'd go check the electrical box, and a minute or two later, the lights snapped back on. The whiteboard flared to painful brightness before me, and I reflexively checked the corner, which still read, "Merry Christmas, Jack." Then I saw the homework assignment. The second line, "See you next year," had been underlined 3 times in a different color marker. I'm not sure how long I sat there staring pale-faced at that board. I knew that hadn't been underlined before. Reddit, I need your help. Every year around February I get like this. My appetite is absent. My thoughts become cluttered. I have to take a week off from work just to cope with the anxiety. Every year, a day or two before Valentine's Day, I get mailed an envelope from my daughter. They are always titled the same, "Do not open until Valentine's Day," and contain a piece of ripped paper with an image printed on them. I always wait until Valentine's Day to open them, and that day is approaching fast. This year will be the 14th year in a row she has mailed one. The only problem is my daughter disappeared 14 years ago. It all started when my daughter, Riley, was 8. Her mother and I just divorced, and it was nasty. We fucking hated each other. I'll admit I can be stubborn sometimes, but according to her, every bad thing that happened was my fault. Her finger was always pointed at me. There were so many nights Riley couldn't sleep because of our yelling. Looking back, the divorce was in our best interest, especially Riley's, but still, I can't imagine how difficult it was for Riley watching her mother and I drift apart. My lawyer was expensive as shit, but worth it when joint custody was granted. My marriage was terrible, but it brought the flower of the world into my life, Riley. Arrangements were made for each of us to keep Riley 2 weeks at a time, and both of us living in the same school district made transport easy. Having to deal with her crazy mother on occasion was a pain in the ass, but well worth it to see my girl. As she grew up, her curiosity astonished me and opened my eyes to things you miss as an adult. She loved trips to the zoo, pushing her doll in a stroller, and swinging. I taught her how to ride a bike with no training wheels, and she taught me how to appreciate endless hours of Disney movies. My favorite times with Riley were holidays. My side of the family treated her like a princess, and she soaked up the attention like a sponge. We always had so much fun playing games or exploring outside. She loved spending holidays with me, but usually didn't get to. Her overbearing mother caused a stir if Riley wasn't with her side of the family for holidays, and I usually didn't put up a fight. I knew to pick my battles carefully. Since she couldn't see me on most major holidays, she started mailing me things. She was sad I couldn't see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas, so she would cut out funny images she saw in a newspaper, magazine, or the internet, and mail them to me a few days before the holiday. She always titled the envelopes with "Do not open until insert holiday." She started enjoying her little collage projects, and I started receiving them on New Year, Halloween, 4th of July, and Valentine's Day. The next time she would come over, she asked if I waited until the actual holiday to open them, which I always did. It was a fun way for us to get around the 2-week rule. I started putting all of her envelopes and cutouts into a bin. I've held on to each and every one. She was my little angel that could instantly put me in a good mood. Her body may have been small, but her heart was large enough for the two of us. I don't know how she turned out so caring after all the shit her mother and I put her through, but God, I cared for her so much. One morning I was woken by an authoritative knock at my door. The police eagerly searched my home and questioned me for hours, but I was more confused than helpful. I lost my shit when they said Riley was missing. I sucked up my pride to join my ex-wife in helping the police any way we could. The search began immediately. The Amber Alert had already been issued, and the whole community searched for my little angel. She has never been found. After getting my ex-wife's neighbors, and others' testimony, the police pieced together their best assumption as to what happened. The report said Riley waited at the end of the driveway for the school bus. Her mother let Riley stand by herself while getting ready for work. The next time she looked for Riley, she was gone and suspected the bus had picked her up and she was on the way to school. The bus driver said she never saw Riley that day. When the school called my ex-wife about Riley's absence an hour later, the police were called. Over the next few days, tips came in, but nothing was substantive. As the attention faded, so did the help. As the help faded, so did my optimism. When the police called off the search, 2 weeks later, I smashed the fuck out of my bedroom drywall in a rage. I had a phase where I blamed my ex-wife for being irresponsible. I had a binge drinking phase. Hell, I even had a suicidal phase that went so far as a pistol purchase. The light of my life had been extinguished by some random perv or fucking maniacal abductor. Nothing helped ease the pain, and that following year crept by slowly. Then I received an envelope. Startled by the writing, I dropped it on the ground when I read the front. Do not open until Valentine's Day. The handwriting was shockingly similar, and even the apostrophe was missing, something she always forgot. I lost it. Tears streamed down my face while I sobbed harder than I had in my life. My sorrow quickly turned to anger when I realized what happened. Someone was playing the sickest fucking joke imaginable, and I had to find out who. I called my ex-wife, but she brushed off my anger as pathetic. I called a few friends who might have known something, but no one did. When I finally opened the envelope, the only thing it contained was a small, torn piece of paper with a printed image of a monkey. After calming my rage and getting my wits about me, I threw everything into a plastic bag to take to the police. Did one of her letters get trapped in the mail only to be sent a year late? Is it a cruel joke? Is her abductor taunting me? Is Riley alive? None of my questions were answered after they analyzed the mail. No fingerprints, no fibers, no DNA. Fucking nothing. The only helpful information I received was since there was no stamp or return address, then someone put it in the mailbox personally. After 6 months of testing, the envelope and monkey image was returned to me. I put it in the box with the rest of Riley's gifts. The event was so peculiar, it never left my mind. I spent hours going over possible scenarios of her disappearance and how one of her gifts got to me a year late. I spent that year a recluse from my family and friends while trying to make sense of what happened. My heart needed to heal, alone. On February 12th the following year, another envelope came. It had the same handwriting and title, "Do not open until Valentine's Day." I didn't get upset. Somehow it gave me peace. I followed the instructions and 2 days later opened it. A small piece of paper with an orange on it was inside. I put it in with the others. This has continued for the last 13 years, 14 if one comes this year. The first 4 envelopes contained images of Anne, monkey, orange, mailbox, mouse, or mice. After 4 unsuccessful attempts in 4 years, the police could not find any information. Every year I brought them my newest gift, and every year they told me no evidence was found. They knew it was odd for me to get letters the same time every year, but since they were not threatening, they couldn't do much else. They advised I ignore them since it could be a prank. After the 4th year, I stopped showing them. The next 3 years I was mailed images of Anne, yo-yo, kite, igloo. A few months after I received the cutout of the igloo, I was called about Riley's disappearance. A young college filmmaker wanted to do a low-budget documentary on her disappearance and asked permission from me. Publicity could only help Riley's situation, so I agreed. The interview was difficult, but the college kid was accommodating enough to interview my ex-wife on a different occasion. I never mentioned the envelopes. After it was released online, the cops got a few more tips, but nothing materialized. The next February, I set up a camera to record my mailbox. I wanted to catch the person in the act. However, after getting another envelope, I searched the footage to find an error had occurred. The last 12 hours were just static. This new envelope gave me a rush while opening it. It was like Riley was still talking to me. Sure, I had doubts, but sometimes the only thing keeping a man sane are his delusions. The handwriting was still the same. It was still Riley's. The envelope's image was of a lemur. I continued living my life. I've had a construction job for 9 years now that pays well and keeps the hours consistent. My girlfriend lives with me and she is great, but I have kept the gifts from Riley a secret. Even my ex-wife doesn't know about them. When asked why I take off around Valentine's Day, I just tell everyone it's in honor of my daughter. The next 2 years brought in large images. The thick folded pieces were glossy, like from a nice magazine. They were Anne, lightbulb elephant. I continued saving all the gifts. Every year was like a present from Riley. My assumption of a prank faded years ago, knowing no one would keep this up that long. The next 3 years brought envelopes containing Anne, dog mop ear or earring. Here is the envelope and earring cutout from last year. The last 13 years have been a hard battle to fight. Not knowing where Riley is or if she is even still alive eats at my soul. I've managed the pain as best I could, but these damn envelopes bring it all back. I have no idea why anyone would do this as a prank, but I equally can't believe it's anyone other than Riley. Every year my mailbox camera malfunctions, goes blank, or is consumed with static the day I receive the envelopes. I have no proof that someone is fucking with me and it drives me crazy. Would anyone really torment me this long? Riley would be 22 now, and I'm sure just as sweet as when she was taken from me. Valentine's Day is approaching, and the anxiety has me reaching out for guidance. I can't make sense of the situation, so I'm asking for any help or solutions to this strange puzzle.